So, I had two heroes in my life. The first one was Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle, a great New York Yankees center fielder. He really just elevated my interest in baseball. I used to live and die by whatever Mickey Mantle did at home plate. When he hit a home run, I was ecstatic. When he struck out, I was depressed. But the second hero really impacted my life because it embarked me on a path of comedy. That's Johnny Carson. Let me tell you a little bit about Johnny Carson and the story I have about him. I used to do stand-up comedy, believe it or not, in the Catskill Mountains of New York State, where many, many comedians got their start. So I did the stand-up comedy, and I liked it. I did well at it. But I really loved to write comedy. And I really dreamed that one day I would write comedy for my hero, Johnny Carson. So, when I was fresh out of college, I took a job as a tour guide. I gave guided tours of the NBC studios in New York City. Now, the most popular part of that tour was seeing part of the Tonight Show being taped. People used to love it. As a matter of fact, the most popular tour left around 5:15 because the Tonight Show was taped at 5:30, and that's when people got to see part of a show taped, especially the monologue. Well, one day I was giving a guided tour, and I always carried my comedy material around with me because you never, ever know when the opportunity is going to strike, you know what I mean? So I had my comedy material. I got up to the Tonight Show studios about 10 minutes early. Now, the tour used to watch the studio from behind the glass. So, being 10 minutes early, I said, now is my chance, I'm going to do it. So I told them to wait, and when the Tonight Show began, just enjoy it and watch it, and I'll be back. Now, I knew every nook and cranny in that building, so I knew exactly how to get backstage, and here was my moment. I wasn't going to blow it. Took the elevator, go down one floor, walk in backstage, and there was my hero, who I had never met before, Johnny Carson, standing there at 25 after 5, waiting to go on. In 5 minutes, he was going to be before millions of people. Didn't stop me, no sir. So I took my material, I went up to him, I was trembling. Listen, we used to stalk the guy at UN Plaza where he lived in New York. I don't mean like stalked him, but we used to wait to get a glimpse of him as he left his building to go tape the show. We never ever really saw him, but we waited in anticipation. But this is the first time I saw him in person. I went up to him and I said, hello, Mr. Carson. My name is Bob. I almost forgot my name. I've got some comedy material for you, and it would be great if you could read it. Do you think you could? I would love to write for you. So he said, I would love to see your material, but as you know, I'm ready to go on in 5 minutes. Can you leave it off at my office, and I'll read it and get back to you? Well, after meeting Johnny Carson and him saying he would read my material, I didn't walk out from backstage, man. I flew. My feet never touched the floor. Went back up to the tour, and that was that. The next morning I come into work, and there's a big sign where the tour guides hang out waiting to give the tours, and it said, because of the action of a tour guide yesterday, right before taping the Tonight Show, guided tours will no longer be allowed to watch the Tonight Show being taped and will no longer be allowed in the Tonight Show studios. That was all because of me. I feel guilty about it to this day that I screwed so many people at their chance to see Johnny Carson. Well, what could I do? Ironically enough, 6 months later, I had an agent, Robert Q. Lewis, who did send my material legitimately up to the Tonight Show office. And we got a letter back, and it said, we love the material that Mr. Hillman wrote for Johnny Carson. However, we're looking for new ideas. And while the material was great, there weren't enough new ideas in there. And so I never got the job writing for the Tonight Show. But I've written a lot of comedy since, and I've done a lot of stand-up since. And I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I owe it to Johnny Carson. When he passed away, I cried, not for 1 day, not for 2 days, but for 3 days. That's what Johnny Carson meant to me. I have to tell you something. There will never, ever, ever be anyone like Johnny Carson. Not Kimmel, not Colbert, not Fallon. There was only one Johnny Carson. He meant the world to me, and I still think of him all the time.